Welcome, everyone. This is the IPLD weekly sync meeting. It's August the 19th, 2019. And as every week, we just report what we've been up to and then discuss any open issues that we want to talk about. Yeah. And I start right away with the stuff I've been working on. I start with great news because there was this issue that in the CBOR world, you can register for certain tags, and someone did register for tag 42. And it turns out that they are really nice people, and they decided that we can have this tag, and they just move to some other tag. So the CIDs in CBOR will be tag 42, which we currently use, and we will get the official stamp on it. And this is basically what I spent time on. And now I've also a first draft because they need to have a proper spec. And yeah, this is what I'm working on. And hopefully, so my plan is really to get it finished this week, because I will also be at a conference for the next week. So for 10 days, I will be at the conference. So I hopefully we'll finish it this week. So then we are good to go and have this tag officially registered at the INR. Other than that, I've did a bit of IPFS stuff to get their to help them with the sync-await endeavor. I thought, so what I basically did is that I did this work and I thought I needed it for the IPLD work, but it turns out like I can't recall why I thought I would need it. But anyway, I did the work and it works. So they're happy. Yeah, that's it from me. Who's next on the list? Eric is next on the list.
So I had a long, dark tea time of the soul, a very thoughtful, more contemplative than I wanted, even time trying to figure out what we should do with map ordering. I think that's an issue we know is going to be an issue, and we've kind of tried to dodge it for the most part so far, fairly successfully, so like good. And I was trying to work on decoding logic that will work well and be really efficient in the code generation stuff that I'm working on around structs and schemas. And I just like tangentially got into this map ordering thing, and it just, it's a really big, hairy domain. So I spent a bunch of time trying to come up with the solution, and I think so far all I've come up with is actually a list of facts which reach contradiction for there being any single solution at all, which is kind of frustrating and not really what I wanted, but I guess might be progress. We have to do something because we have iterators in the data model. They have to have a behavior, whatever it is. Some codecs have ordering opinions. If the data model, like the storage that we have in memory, has different ordering opinions, then like just naturally some cost will emerge. Somewhere you have to do a sort or a rearrangement to some other predefined order, whatever. There is some overhead there. It's just a question of what kind of overhead and where you can push it. And yeah, combined with the fact that stuff like HAMPs will, for example, have their own ordering opinions, which are based on a logic inside of them, and trying to run against the grain on those will have inherent performance costs as well. There's just no obvious slam dunk which reconciles all of these things. So I'm still kind of trying to churn through that and figure out which things are even interface design issues in the code versus spec issues, and where the spec issues should land. So I think this is going to just come out in one big exploration document first, and then we'll quite likely have to go through a couple of rounds of figuring out which parts of it even go where. One idea that I've had so far that seems to simplify a lot of things is just making sure that ordering opinions stay mostly bound to the codec layer. like when we're using DAG-CBOR, we care about having sorted order for hashing that is consistent with DAG-CBOR. But if you're in another codec, you're already going to have a different hash. So if you have a different canonical order, that's fine. And that answers some questions, but not even remotely all of them. So,
I mean, in practice, right, you end up dealing with an enumerator, for the kinds at least, you end up dealing with an in-memory iterator over some primitive structure that got serialized into. So we don't even have the ability to determine that ordering, right? Like for instance, like the JSON spec now says that these need to be ordered UTF-8, like when you encode them, because that isn't defined in the JSON spec. So force that ordering. If you put them into a Python object, like every deserializer will do, they are now in a new random order, because internally inside of that structure in Python, it's using some kind of set, and there's some kind of algorithm behind like the ordering.
Yep.
Yeah. So
made those kind of specific notes in my document in progress yet, but that's a very real problem for several languages. Some languages can make sorted maps in reasonably internal implementation efficient ways, and some of us are just like kind of out of luck on that, right? Like I think Python might be one of the kind of out of luck ones. Go is too, to my great chagrin.
Well, and in JavaScript, there's a preserved ordering, but it's based on the insertion order. So this has the benefit that like if we have an ordering that we encode, it will end up in the deserialized structure. So that's good. But we also need to, when we're encoding, resort them if they were inserted out of UTF-8 character ordering. So there's still like work that we have to do.
Yeah.
But isn't ordered maps something like so shouldn't be the maps and there shouldn't be the ordered maps, which is something different? Like, I mean, like, because like, but they mean you certainly need to have an iterator over maps, certainly. But
so I think this is actually
doesn't matter. Like the order doesn't matter. So it's more like so for example, you want to filter something, there the ordering doesn't matter. So you just
yeah. So I think like honestly with the multi-block collections, this is actually easier because we have to go and write the iterator for each of these. So we can specify the behavior pretty explicitly. I think the problematic part is in the codec layer, where we're leveraging a lot of existing language level assumptions that like make their way into these encoders, and then could potentially give us back the same semantic data with a different hash, even with the same codec. That's where we need to worry about it the most.
Yeah, there's lots of things that are scary in that area. And just as like an interface design and what we present to the other humans using these libraries. So I'm looking at this as I've got this node interface, right? Where if I have a single tree of data that's in one block and has no advanced layout stuff in it, then that's just going to serialize as a map. And so like maybe if we say, okay, everything has this canonical order, then that one will be some sorted order iterator. But then if I have another thing that's implemented by a HAMT, and I'm exposing that as a node, and I ask for the same iterator method, then that one's going to give me HAMT iteration order. So how on earth do we write our documentation of this to not surprise the user that when they're using these different kinds of things underneath, they get consistent, but consistently different orders? It's just, it's tricky.
But wouldn't be the order different? Like to the order depends on a codec basically. But is it a problem? Especially for JSON, for example, there is no order specified for a reason, probably because like that's a big problem. So what's the problem if we not specify it, and if we want to have ordered maps, you use an ordered map and not a normal map? So why would you need to have order in a map?
Because we care about the hash, and because of the way the languages encode and decode data, you could literally like do nothing to an object and just encode it, decode it and re-encode it, and then it would end up with a different hash, right?
No, basically the point is that the encoders and decoders need to make sure that they always end up with the same order. But if you do something with it, it doesn't matter. But if you basically encode, then you need to make sure it's the same order.
Yeah. It's like a thing that we have to deal with in our encoders and our codec specs, but it's not. And but like we shouldn't expect it to be done in the format layer, right? Or sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not
I
in the
hate all
data
the
model.
words.
It's not the data model. It's on the data model, but it's on the codec
Yes.
layer, basically. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I don't think that we don't have to have consistent ordering between the codecs. We just have to have consistent ordering within a codec.
Yes.
Because
Okay,
because
so
they were
intensely agree with, that would be good. That would be super correct. But it also has serious costs, because if you're parsing in the canonical order of one codec, and like let's say it uses some, I don't know, it has some sorted order, but it's one that's just like this codec made a weird ass choice, right?
Yeah.
We don't. So that it stores everything. Let's say the data model has no opinions. The data model, we implement everything to keep exactly whatever order it was fed, so it keeps that one. And then we serialize it out in another codec that has a different sorting order. Shoot, now you have to sort. You have to allocate all of the additional memory needed to do the sort on the side.
Yeah, but if you store, for example, CBOR, this is what always happens. Like, this is what CBOR does. Like,
and we're going to have to do it in JSON too. We can't use the regular JSON.
CBOR specifies a certain order, and this is exactly what happens. If you store, for example, like use Python and store it then in, so you have your Python struct and then store it in CBOR. This is exactly what happens.
But if you change order, I don't know. This long story short.
Basically, in CBOR, for example, you can't. Like CBOR has a specified order in their spec.
Yeah.
So you can't change it.
So if we have,
I didn't realize that.
If we have another codec though that has a different order, then that means when you switch between them, you're going to do sorting.
Yes, correct.
Which means any possible opinion that we can put in the data model is wrong for some set of interfaces.
Correct. Therefore, we don't put an opinion there.
Well, that may well be part of the answer, but it's also pretty rough. I don't know. There's more than one concern active here too, and I think we were like, a document which just enumerates which the concerns are is important, because we've hammered the heck out of one concern right now. But one of the things that originally got me here is a very different concern, which was just plain parser efficiency. So like another thing I'm worried about is if we have a struct definition in a schema and I'm parsing stuff and validating against that, and the struct has a bunch of optional fields, if I'm getting things in a strict known in advance order, I can code gen a parser and a validator for this, which does its work using 0 additional memory, because it just applies the optionality constraint field by field as it goes. So the only thing it needs is an integer word to say, how many fields have I munched already? And if I have to accept things in random order, it gets more costly.
Yeah.
There's just a whole bunch of things like this which show up in kind of a fractal of places where it's not immediately expected. So
yeah, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that as soon as we have different codecs, and we have different codecs, there will be codecs that have a specified order, and we don't have a choice. So basically, it happens, and we don't have a choice. So basically, so we can't work on it, and the only solution, I guess, is if you really have ordered sets, which is so. And from the big one is because like we tackled the issue also with a CouchDB back in the days, because like Erlang doesn't really have maps. So what you do is you use an array of objects. And then the question is, well, then suddenly the map has an order. Like, so in Erlang it has a fixed order, but in JSON it doesn't, and then you end up with all those weird things. And therefore, Anyway, but I'm looking forward to see your exploration document, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, it might well turn out that the answer is there is no answer, and we make some series of choices that are somewhat arbitrary in certain places because there's no way to avoid the choice, and in other places we very carefully avoid making a choice at all. And maybe that will be the best we can do, but it needs a lot of examination for me to convince myself that it's actually that difficult. But I think, yeah.
Actually, just I think I need to take back that CBOR has a specified order, but they basically have a recommendation in their spec which order you should use. So it's not like, so it's not hard coded in CBOR, but that's the order everyone is using. So yeah.
I don't know if I want to bring this back exactly, but I don't really like their order either. I think it's weird properties.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually sort in prefix first order, which is just really irritating.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Oh, by the way, but the order changes in the new version of CBOR, just as information. So is the canonical CBOR ordering is the old version. So I just basically so it's the person that made sure we get the tag pointed out to me that there's a new version on GitHub. I can put it into the notes, which is clear about the ordering, and they do it a bit differently. Just to keep this in mind. It's the upcoming version.
Good to know.
I can point you to it. And I want to say one last thing. So basically, but what we need for all codecs, we need some ordering for all codecs to make sure that the hashes are always the same. So we certainly need to have some ordering. Okay. All right. I will put it in the notes. Cool. Anything else, Eric?
No, that was a surprisingly big time sink. I tried to push some code gen at the same time, but got like blocked by this concept. So.
All right. Then next one is Rod.
Just having fun imagining Eric being blocked mentally by this, sitting in the corner, sort of mental loop.
That's
I have a guilty admission, which is that I spent far too long on Zcash last week than I should have. But it was a rabbit hole that I just couldn't get out of. And so I wrote a Zcash block decoder for JavaScript. It was really enjoyable, and I put it down as a learning experience. I learned a lot about blockchain blocks, and I came up with a new binary decoding technique that I think could be useful elsewhere. But yeah, I'll tidy that up and figure out how to propose that get integrated with the IPLD Zcash thing. I did a little bit more hamped work, coming up with this, because the spec of the hamped is not in perfect sync with the implementation. I'm having some trouble with the testing data, but I need to sort that out on the JavaScript side and then make sure that the Go side is identical. But not enough meaningful work there to report anything of note. And that's really all I have.
Cool, thanks. Michael, do you have anything you want to report?
Trying to remember what I actually did get done last week. So I followed up on all the issue stuff that we had in that big, thing of issues to deal with. So there was some stuff about, the JSON spec and a few other things. I really need to rewrite the roadmap and the OKRs based on the last meeting that I had, and do some other follow-up from the PAC meeting and send out an org-wide update. I was planning on doing that last week, but I got caught up with some metric stuff and then I was out sick for a few days. So hopefully that'll get done within the next day or two. And then we should be off to a much better place. One cool thing though about the metrics work that I was doing that y'all may want to check out. So GitHub Actions are pretty amazing. And you can do roughly anything with them. So you can kick off actions when new issues come in, new pull requests, and then you can just run arbitrary code in a Docker file, like in any language. And it also gets minted a new GitHub token every time. So if you want to talk to GitHub again, you can just use that token to then push things into GitHub. So we're using this now for some IPFS metrics. They get collected every day. You can also set it up as a cron job, basically. So it'll just run on it uses the cron syntax and everything to run on scheduled time. And then you can check that data that you collect back into the same repo, and you can generate human readable README, like human readable markdown files, and put them in the repo. So it becomes this sort of system unto itself with all these different hooks from different things that happen in the repo. And the repo is sort of like a state machine. And then it also integrates sort of all of the information about all of the runs into it, and everything is open by default. So it's a really, really nice setup for projects like ours that want to start doing any kind of automation around the project. So super, super useful. Go ahead and check it out if you feel up for it. That's about all I got.
Cool, thanks. I forget to add that also on the links on the draft for the spec for the CBOR tag, I really want to get your feedback as soon as possible to really get it pushed through this week. So fast iterations, please. Okay. Other than that, so I will be out next week. Is there anything else we want to discuss? Any items?
One thing I just saw, we should maybe look at the IRC and IPLD. Someone was thinking out loud about some protobuf stuff, and I don't know if I have instantaneous good answers for that. I think we may want to, I remember that we also had some discussions that there aren't many protobuf users, and we were seriously considering doing some retconning on what some of the codec numberings mean around that, to basically be like, this is Unix FS v1 style parsing. And if we're going to do those things, we should, I don't want to go full depth on protobuf codecs right now because I just don't have the time and attention to do it well, but maybe we should outline a note about how like the old DAG protobuf has like these particular weird opinions about links and stuff, which are no longer in sync with the IPLD data model. By the way, that's a thing and it's over here. And then like at least make a placeholder for new protobufs. Because it would be
maybe. So this person that's in this thing, so they're saying that they're using their own protobuf thing, not DAG PB.
Oh, so maybe this is already.
Is that what they're saying? I can't tell.
Or an intermediate representation.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they're saying the protobuf is 10x faster, which I'm very surprised by. That should not be the case.
Well,
why that would be.
I think it could, because the point of CBOR is that you always have this dynamic, like you don't know what the keys are, and in protocol buffers it's more like structs, so you can certainly like easy extract things. But it could be also any other format you use, not like protocol buffers. So if you use, for example, like CBOR and arrays, it's probably just as fast.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just a thought. We might have some communications work to do.
I think we need to ask for more information.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Anything else?
Nope.
Cool. Then we were quite quick. And so I close this meeting. Thanks everyone for attending and watching our 1,000 people in the live stream. Hey, goodbye everyone.
Yeah.
So I stop the stream.